The Nike Zoom Freak line, or now just the Freak line, has got to be one of the most bizarre evolutions of a signature shoe I have ever seen, and even just in 7 models. And from one perspective, yeah, the newest ones, the 7s, yeah, they've done some things I really like from the foot doctor side. But as a lover of shoe technology and as a super fan of Giannis, I really feel like this line is just not living up to his caliber of player, his caliber of person. So in this video, I'm gonna cut open all the freaks, show you the evolution of all of the freaks, and you can tell me if from the 1s to the 7s, if this is still a freak line. Let's get into it. So the definition of something or something that is a freak is something that is abnormal or unusually different, but it also describes an unexpected event, a person with an extreme obsession, or a person acting in a strange way. And to me, the freak line really was all about kind of accessible technology or interesting or new technology or things almost like an experimental signature shoe line, something kind of would pop out at you. That starts in the 1s. Now, usually a first line of signature shoe sometimes can be a little bit bland. They're kind of testing out the market, see if people, will buy a shoe based on a player's name. But even the Freak one or the Zoom Freak one, I thought had some interesting things. You got all this foam that comes up over here as a carrier in the rear foot with the big reverse Nike swoosh. And then on the inside of the shoe, yeah, there's no shank, but then there's double stacked zoom in the heel, which honestly feels amazing. No, there is no shank on these things, but you've seen a lot of first signature shoes in Nike that they don't do that, so to me that really wasn't a huge thing. The interesting thing was, in the first Freak line, it was a full-length tread pattern going from the Freak logo into kind of a rose pattern there under the big toe, and then going again into the heel. So even in the first one, you started to see interesting pops of technology, especially kind of unexpected technology in the rear foot, where you got the giant pop of foam there, as a carrier, and then on the inside, the double stacked zoom. So even though it kind of looked like a basic shoe from the outside, on the inside, there's some interesting stuff. Now, as was expected from the second model of a signature line, the Zoom Freak 2 really started to kind of set the tone for what the Freak line was going to be. And really, you saw it, you started seeing it in the marketing of Nike. They were starting to try to make this shoe line a little bit more fun, unexpected, just pops of, newer technology or just interesting technology. You start to see in the uppers little bits and bobs of TPU here on the lateral side. They call these like Euro step stabilizers. The lateral flange jutted out way far, made of outsole rubber, which was so cool. The thing is they started sculpting the midfoot of the shoe. You got decoupled tread, but these two tread pods almost made like a male-female, right? So you kind of had this little air channel going into the shoe, which just made it a little bit more slick, made it a little bit more like, a speedy type shoe. Zoom Freak sounds like a speedy shoe. Then you get into the midsole, top-loaded shank now on these things, and a big chunky Zoom air unit in there. And just all in all, the shoe just looked sleek and fast, and it was and still is sleek and fast. People are still playing in this shoe. And yeah, you got a lot of sculpting here in the rear foot. The tread isn't super flat, right? It's a little bit more sculpted to give a little more easy transition step. But because it has this giant lateral flange on it, and yeah, some TPU stabilizers, the shoe wasn't crazy unstable either. So, the Zoom Freak 2 still to me had a lot. The Zoom Freak 1 was a little more stable because it was a full-length tread pattern, but the 2s really started melding speed, bounce, as well as stability. And to me, this was kind of like the perfect second signature shoe. It really started showing what Nike wanted to do with the line, which was unexpected, fun, accessible technology. Now, there has never been a shoe that I have loved and hated as much as the Zoom Freak 3. Now, number one, it had a giant dorsal retention strap. I love dorsal retention straps. Anytime you're not relying just on the laces for closure is fantastic. The containment gets a lot better. The problem was that the shoe was so unstable because of the tandem Zoom air units in the forefoot. Now, they did put a plastic piece really similar to the 2s on the outside, kind of casing the Zoom air pod on the lateral side, but because the tread was so scooped in, right? You still have decoupled tread, 2 tread pods, and the air channels in here and the male-female tread, and I think that's cool. I think that is a good signature. It's just that the flange, it just wasn't big enough. I think it wasn't just the lateral flange on the forefoot, but it was the rear foot. If they would have made the rear foot a little bit wider, I think this shoe would have been a lot more stable. I heard of so many ankle sprains in these. I actually tweaked my ankle in these when I was testing them out, kind of like at half speed. The uppers though, really nice and light. The fabrics they were using, the materials, I mean, like I said, the shoe just looks amazing. The technology, the tandem zoom air in the forefoot, the plastic, that comes into the lateral flange, they would have made that flange the same as the twos, just made the rear foot a little bit wider. I think this could have been a generational shoe for Nike, especially because huge, chunky, top-loaded shank in these things. I mean, the fit on these things was fine, right? A little narrow, but otherwise great. So it definitely lived up to the Freak line, definitely the Zoom Freak name. It just maybe went a little bit too far in terms of trying to make them speedy, that it just missed out on some of the stability. But you could learn from this and iterate this and make this, like I said, into a generational shoe in the 4th model. But is that what they did? No, that's not what they did. In the Zoom Freak 4, honestly, it does look a lot like the Zoom Freak 3. It's just a lot more of a flexible shoe. You still kind of have the male-female tread. I actually like this a lot, this design of tread. I think it just looks slick. And honestly, I felt this was a little bit more of a stable shoe than the 3s. I think because the rear foot, you can see, is a little bit wider on these, so it's not as easy to tip. Now, as you go into the midsole, you still have tandem zoom air, which that's cool. You can actually see it from the outside, which I thought was pretty cool. But no shank on these things. So it is gonna be, there is a chance you actually get heel negative. And what a negative heel is when the heel of the shoe starts to dip below the forefoot of the shoe. Because remember, you have tandem zoom air in the forefoot, and as long as that zoom doesn't pop, zoom air is incredibly resilient. I mean, it does not deform unless it pops. It stays very resilient. However, in the rear foot, this is just EVA, and so you get someone pretty heavy, like Giannis, or like other people that want to buy these shoes, right? You start to tip into a negative heel. That can lead to Achilles tendonitis, Achilles ruptures, plantar fasciitis, all sorts of knee issues. I mean, any number of things. And that's why having the top-loaded shank when you've got forefoot zoom and rear foot foam is such an important thing, because it kind of stops you from going negative heel. And in these ones, that was a concern. The thing is, if you would have just put a shank in the 4s, I actually think this would have been a cool shoe. The one thing you kind of went back to was a foam carrier from the 1s into the 4s. You didn't really have anything stabilizing these zoom pods, which I think, although like I said, they're more flexible and you can smash into them more, once the foam starts going, this can be even worse for ankle sprains. Yeah, you get a little bit of a flange here, but not much. So to me, this was, I wouldn't say all the worst parts of the 3s into the 4s, but to me, it was definitely more of like a budget, it was like the budget Zoom Freak 3 into the 4, trying to retain the zoom pods and what made the 3s look like the 3s. But none of the stabilizing elements or none of the upgrades to the 3s that would have made this, like I thought, could have been a generational shoe. Now, when I bought the Zoom Freak 5, I genuinely thought I had gotten a fake shoe. Now, I bought it, I either bought it from Nike or from like Foot Locker or something. I mean, I did not buy it secondhand. And I thought, did they give, was this like the immortality, like the next immortality? That's how basic this was. No sculpting in the uppers, really no tandem zoom air. It's just now a wafer thin zoom air unit, no shank, and just pretty basic foam setup, not even a double thickness heel counter. This, I mean, you do have kind of like a male-female outsole tread. I mean, this is now full length, which I like full length tread, so that's, as a foot doctor, I like that. And you do get some pretty chunky tread in the heels, and that's okay for outdoor courts. The forefoot though is still just, the Freak low. You do get some indentations in there to kind of make it look a little bit more sculpted. But the 5s have got to be just the most basic looking shoe I think I've ever seen. And simple can be better, which we will get to later in the line. But in this instance, it was just a really thin, I don't know what went on here. If this was, I'm not sure. But put it this way, this is not, this to me would not be considered a freak of a shoe by any stretch of the imagination. Now the Zoom Freak 6, when I first saw them online, I thought, okay, this is gonna meld everything together, because I saw the plastic swoosh here on the outside, and I kind of thought the whole Nike swoosh was made of plastic. It is just this little insert, but you do get a bit, not a bit and bob like here in the 2s, but you do get one little bit here at TPU for a little bit of a stabilizer. I said, maybe that goes into the midfoot. That would be awesome. It does not. It is the exact same shoe basically as the 5s on the inside, a little bit, more resilient, lively foam in there. That's nice. You do get a double thickness heel counter, which is great. I love the Nike double thickness heel counter. Still no shank and just a wafer thin zoom air, but then the outsole tread, they're not even like remotely doing the male-female anymore, like the signature, right, of the Zoom Freak line. It is basically just a full-length tread pattern with the Zoom Freak logo. And although that is good for stability and everything, just the ethos of the shoe you can see here has just kind of gotten into much more of a basic model. Yeah, a little bit of plastic here, but that's it. Double thickness heel counter. But I mean, a ton of other Nike shoes have that. Non-signature Nike shoes have the double thickness heel counter. So, to me, this doesn't look like a freak of a shoe by any means. Although the shape of it, I do like. No shank, nothing special on the inside, kind of more of a downgrade. Honestly, this to me, like you can get this in the Immortality line, right? And spend less money. So what were they trying to do here? All right, but getting into the 7. Now, honestly, the 7s are kind of near and dear to my heart as a foot doctor because this is one of the Nike shoes I actually have been recommending the most recently because it is number 1, stable. It is number 2, very comfortable and easy to break in, and it's not crazy expensive. I like these for ankle sprainers, for heel pain it's okay. It does have a shank in it, top-loaded shank, and that's all great. It's just that, the outsole tread, still full length. Yeah, it's got his name on it, and that's pretty cool. But no more bits or bobs in the top of it, no more embellishments that make it a freak, and it doesn't have Zoom Air in it, so it's not even the Zoom Freak line anymore. And this would have been a perfect opportunity to bring back the double stacked Zoom in the heel. This shoe is near perfect, right? And just in terms of like a basic shoe you can recommend to anybody that's not gonna like really cause issues, you could have done something so cool in this. Bring it back to the ones, bring back something really special in this, or at least something unexpected in the shoe. And what we got was just a basic model. And yeah, it's nice that I can recommend them, and it's nice that it's comfortable and it's got cushion on and everything else. But we've even changed the name of the shoe. It's not even just Zoom Freak anymore. It's just the Nike Freak line. And my question is, why? You had the model, you had the shape, the shoe is good, Giannis is great. Why not try to start throwing in the unexpected in these shoes, or just something under the hood that would get people that are super interested in shoes, like me. Maybe not someone that's super interested in like the biomechanics and the injury prevention of shoes, but just people that are interested in shoes. Get us all excited. We're a big crowd, right? We all kind of like the same things. We like them for different reasons, but the whole crowd likes the same things. And I think in the 8s, fine, stick with this silhouette. It's great. It ain't broke, don't fix it. But throw something unexpected in there. Make it a real freak. Make people like us that like this line of shoes, that like Giannis and just like shoes in general, give us something to talk about, not the downfall, right? Let's talk about, hey, this line is getting upgraded. So love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Which one's your favorite, Freak or Zoom Freak? And are you more going to the Immortality line, which a lot of people do now? Because the Immortalities are fine, they're great, and it's weird. Yeah, it's a bizarre line, as you can kind of see now. So if you do want to see a breakdown of the LeBron line or the Nike, the Air Jordan line from the Nike days to the Jordan brand days, I have breakdowns of every single flagship shoe of those models, and those are some crazy evolutions too. Make sure you click into any one of these videos up here, subscribe down below. I'll see you in the next video.